on a target in a game where everything dies in one hit. So we had to do some iteration there as well. The first skill that we have to show you today is Way of the 100 Fists. This came from the aesthetic goal of feels like a brawler, feels like a fighting game. This skill, basically in the video that you're seeing, the player is actually hitting the same mouse button 3 times in a row. It's Way of the 100 Fists, but every time you use the skill, a different move comes out. So the first time's a dash, and then you click the same skill again, multiple strikes come out hitting enemies, and then you click the same skill again, and it's an AoE. And so you can kind of see how this is a new thing for the Diablo license to have a combo system that feels a little bit more like a console brawler. The next skill I want to show you today is called Crippling Wave. This came from the aesthetic goal of, speed over toughness. And so we didn't want to make the monk just harder, more health or more armor, but we knew that they needed to have some defenses. So instead we focused on debuffing the enemies. So here we have an attack that slows your enemies on the first hit, applies a damage debuff on them on the second hit, and then refreshes the duration on both on the third hit, as well as doing a little extra damage. And so here you can really kind of see how our aesthetic goals are translating into gameplay. The third skill we have comes from the fantasy that came around when we went around the team and said, what kind of a skill would you love to see on a monk? What came up over and over is this notion of, internal damage, organ damage, the exploding heart, those kind of things. And people really said, I want a skill that does that. So to balance out the third hit, we make the first and second hit are actually fairly average. It's 2 hits. In some ways, it could be seen as the cost of the skill. And then when you get to the third hit, you're hitting the mouse button for the third time, you place a dot bleed on the target. And if the target dies while that bleed is on them, they explode, dealing damage proportional to their maximum health to everybody near them. It's pretty cool. But now let's talk about the combo system. To combine these together, we decided that players would be able to use skills from any of the 3 stages and mix and match them. So that's how we can hopefully have room for both beginners to the game and veterans, where a beginner might just want to spam one skill over and over, and that's fine. Veterans can combine moves. Maybe they open up with the dash component of Way of 100 Fists, and then they click Crippling Wave. Well, you're already on stage 2, so you're going to get the attack debuff. And then on stage 3, you move through Exploding Palm, you're going to place the dot on them.
So we've got a pretty good background now, where the monk comes from, what he's all about kit-wise, and we've got some information about how he's going to play, and we've looked at a few of his skills. But to really finish him off, we're gonna need some special effects. We're gonna need some graphics. So I want to first give you a walkthrough of how we came about developing this monk's style kit. So the first thing is we wanted to get that feeling of martial arts action onto the screen. And so that means we, as effects artists, need to work really closely with the animators. They're the people that make things move. They're the guys that are really in tune with this stuff. So they're supplying us with a lot of animated actions that we take and then just sort of punch up. So the next ingredient in our kit is going to be, we wanted to get that holy vibe across. And the best way we felt that we could get that going would be to concentrate on the color palette for all of his skills, aiming solidly for things that are really golden and silvery, and that would evoke a holy vibe. So the last thing is we really wanted to get across this idea that monks are kind of smart, they're learned, they spent a lot of time in monasteries before they're sort of gonna walk the earth. And the best way we could think to kind of get that vibe across was to give them some runes and sprinkle that throughout what they do. We feel that a monk would have an appreciation for art and form, and this would really exemplify that. So now what I'd like to do is show you how we take those basic ingredients and use them to build one of the monk's signature skills that we call Seven-Sided Strike. Now, this skill idea has actually been around on the team for a very, very long time, before there was a monk. It was really a skill waiting for the right hero to come along and take it. But the general idea for how this skill works is that it's a lot like Chain Lightning from Diablo 2, with one difference, and that is you are the lightning. So what we want to do is go back to that original skill and kind of gather up the essence and move forward from there. So the way we did that is we started with just some nice stances and poses that we could get from the animators, and we just get some basic action on screen that we can iterate with. And then the next thing is, we talked about that holy color palette. We're going to mix that in and punch up the way he looks and make him really bright and flashy. There was a time when we thought that this skill would be done in a shadowy kind of look, but when we really, that wasn't going to really support the idea of holiness. So we switched to this brighter, louder kind of take. So the next thing is, we had that stuff working, but the impacts really lacked something. You'd see the guy running into monsters, and he didn't really feel like much was going on. So we add some explosions, impact. Explosions make everything better. So the next thing is, we were like, well, we've got most of what we want, but you know, we talked about that 2D fighter feel. We thought, well, how can art kind of get that across on screen? You know, it's not just about the design of it, but so we thought, well, what if we get something that's kind of almost 2D and stick it in there and sort of marry that up with the impacts to really spell that out. And the last little thing that we threw in was the rune. So the point of the rune is to sort of pull it all together, get a little taste of that other vibe we were shooting for, but also to sort of frame an area on which the action takes place. So we haven't just been working on the monk. We've also been working on some upgrades to the other heroes, so sort of a makeover, if you will, to a number of skills. So I'm going to walk you through a number of those makeovers that we've worked on. So first up is Witch Doctor's Spider Totem, which we showed at last year's BlizzCon. And it was pretty cool, but the thing is, we felt that the look of it was just a little bit too noisy. You laid it down, and in the middle of combat, it's just buzzy, and you can't really figure out what's going on. And the other thing about it was we weren't too crazy about the totem thematic. We didn't feel that really was really driving the Witch Doctor dark theme home. So we made some changes to it. We've renamed it Carrion Spiders. And the other thing is we decided, well, if a lot of little spiders is cool but can't read really well, then we'll switch that around and we'll make it fewer spiders, but we'll make them huge. And huge spiders are definitely creepy. And then instead of a totem, we decided to aim squarely for the zombie thematic and have those spiders actually get emitted from a zombie corpse that you raise from the floor. Next up in the makeover department is the wizard. So last year we showed you Stone Skin, which is a defensive ability. This worked really well, but it was really difficult to read. She's a kind of a spindly shaped character, and there wasn't enough surface area to really get the idea what she was made out of when she switched. So the other big problem with it, though, the one that the artist really had, was it didn't really underscore our goal of making the wizard a light show. So here we have the new Stone Skin look, and we aim for a bright crystalline kind of feel, something that would glow and light up, and something that you just couldn't possibly miss. So it's got a much easier read, and now that we've seen it like this and we like it, we're thinking it's probably going to need a new name, which we haven't thought of yet.